Napoleon, the movie directed and produced by Ridley Scott, starring Joaquin Phoenix, an epic historical movie, a movie about history. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit on Coffee with Alan. Thank you for joining me this morning. We're not doing books this Saturday. We're going to do a movie because while I enjoy books, I also have enjoyed movies throughout my life. My wife and I went to movies when we first met over in Korea, and we're still going to them now. It's one of the things we like to do for some enjoyment. We went to Napoleon last night and thought I'd talk about it, and we'll do some books next week. I have my Les Mis cup. It was sort of the closest thing I have to Napoleon, as Victor Hugo was actually born when Napoleon was in office. The events in Les Mis happened a little bit after Napoleon was in office and a little bit later. So I thought, yeah, that's an appropriate cup. I got the Les Mis cup. It's French, in the same time period as the movie last night. Before I get into the movie, just remind you, get that newsletter. It's going out tomorrow. I'm going to have a couple good articles on helping keep you safe. So enjoylifesafely.com. Sign up for that. The movie Napoleon. Epic, grand, extremely visual, just like you would expect from Ridley Scott. I've been a fan of Ridley Scott since Alien, Blade Runner, Black Hawk Down, Gladiator. Those are just a couple of his most famous ones that I really, really enjoyed, just like millions of people did. He's made many others. This one didn't quite live up to some of those great ones that he did. Didn't do as good at the box office. And I will admit, if I had to say rank them in order of preference, Napoleon would not come above any of those movies I just mentioned or some of his others. I liked the movie, but it wasn't just wow, fantastic. I don't know much about Napoleon. I don't know much about French history. I'm spell my name a French way. I'm a fan of Les Mis, but beyond that, I don't know if the movie was accurate or not. A few things that I saw on the internet, some historians were criticizing it for not being accurate in parts, and I don't know which parts weren't accurate. I just don't know that part. But looking at it from entertainment, I found it an entertaining movie. I enjoyed it. I learned a little bit about the history of that time period and that era that I didn't know. The battle scenes were magnificent. Would expect nothing less from Ridley Scott. And a little bit gory and bloody, which you would expect if you've seen Black Hawk Down or Gladiator. You know that he makes those kind of battles, and they were last night. And it just amazes me how they used to fight wars, lining up shoulder to shoulder and marching across those fields with the volley of gunfire and cannons, just mowing them down. And a couple scenes in the movie, I had to think, the guys that really had the guts, they weren't holding the guns. They're in that line drumming the drums and then getting blown up as they're sitting there drumming. What a way to fight a battle. And just trying to think about if you lived back then, wow, the way they fought those battles and wars was just gruesome and brutal. And you wonder what was going through their minds as they're standing shoulder to shoulder. Most of them were probably religious, and they were just praying that they made it home that night and weren't one of the ones that got mowed down. So the battle scenes were magnificent. The stuff with Napoleon and Josephine, his wife of many years and then divorced, and I don't know how true that is as far as she couldn't have children and different things like that. But it made an interesting story. Phoenix playing the character, I've never been a big fan of his or his movies. I just have never really clicked with me. Definitely not on my top list. I thought his portrayal of Napoleon was interesting. At times it was a very stoic, and then at other times almost a little goofy. It was just different. Not that it was bad. It was just, I found it interesting and different. Want to say good morning to Dixon. Dixon says, so thumbs down from Inspector Gadget. No wowzers, LOL. So I enjoyed the movie, but it wasn't fantastic and great. There were parts that were said a little weird. I thought the way Phoenix acted with the Napoleon character, and I don't know if it's historical accurate about his love for her and the relationship there, but it was an interesting story. The battle scenes were fantastic and just remarkable the way they were made, but then just to think about what it would be like to be in one of those battles. Find it interesting too of Napoleon did so much, his rise to fame and his fall and all of that, then being exiled. And when he died, he was only 51, quite a little bit younger than I am. And he did all of that in those 51 years, which is pretty remarkable when you think about that. And I found that a lot of the historic figures that, we read about, movies are made about, when you look at their lives were actually fairly short. And so Napoleon's, I didn't realize that he was 51 when he died. And the different wars and campaigns and things that he did, and then rose to the emperor and then the fall and all of that. So I found it interesting. Good movie if you like history, you're a little bit interested in that time frame and so forth. Again, I don't know how accurate it is, but it was enjoyable and it was based on real events. So that was my take on the movie. Thought I'd share that. I'm going to do another movie tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about why Die Hard is a Christmas movie. And it's back in the theaters right now. My wife and I have tickets to go see that tonight. So yeah, we're doing 2 movies this weekend. Napoleon last night, and we're going to go see Die Hard tonight. And tomorrow, Coffee with Alain, we'll be talking about why Die Hard is a Christmas movie and talking a little bit about that. Until then, make it a spectacular Saturday. We'll see you then.